Your first love is back, so I'll step aside. I stared at the man in front of me, his expression dark. Fine. Suddenly, he smiled, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds, his handsome face and deep, whirlpool-like eyes fixed on me. Except our contract doesn't expire until next month. If you want to leave early. In one swift motion, he pulled me against him, his large hand gripping my waist, leaving me no room to escape. You'll have to pay the liquidated damages first. This bastard, it wasn't until a month later, when I found myself face-to-face with a drunken Blake, that I finally learned about his so-called first love, the one he could never forget. Yet I'd never even met. The news that the CEO of a rapidly rising domestic corporate giant was under 30 had shocked the internet, fresh out of grad school and back in the country. I'd somehow beaten out countless applicants to land a job at this very company. Joining the marketing department, this had absolutely nothing to do with my actual degree. Friends and family asked why I'd dive into a field I knew nothing about. Wasn't I worried about the pressure? With a polite smile, I gave them the honest answer. No special reason. They just paid way too well. The first time I saw Blake was at the company's year-end gala. As the newly minted elite and CEO of the fastest-growing enterprise to hit the market, Blake made an appearance. He stood under the bright, distant spotlight, delivering a flat, rehearsed speech about motivation and gratitude. At the time, all I could think as I stared at that tall, impeccably dressed man was, he's ridiculously good-looking, and he talks way too much. I never imagined our lives would intersect. What could a guy who dealt in billion-dollar contracts and a regular marketing employee possibly have in common? Then came the department dinner. Anna, we're grabbing drinks after work tonight. The invitation came from Lily, our department head, a sharp, no-nonsense woman responsible for most of our team's boldest ideas. I'd learned a lot from her. Sure, I replied, grinning. Just go easy on me tonight. By the time we clocked out, it was nearly 8 p.m. The group headed to a high-end restaurant in New York. Laughing the whole way, true to her reputation, Lily drank like a beast. Half the team had passed out on the couches before the main course even arrived. Thanks to my earlier plea for mercy, I managed to survive her relentless toasts. Lily called rides for the drunkest of us, then dragged me and the few still-standing colleagues to a second location. The place was all sleek marble and hushed ambience, a far cry from the rowdy bars I'd expected. I thought we were hitting a club, I said. Amused, Lily waved me off. We always do that. Tonight. Let's just talk. She kept drinking, her words growing looser by the minute. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. Mumbling an excuse, I stumbled toward the restroom, and then, bammed, I collided with someone, blinking up through my haze. It took a solid few seconds for the face in front of me to come into focus. Sorry. Who? Bad. Didn't see you. Even though I couldn't place him, I knew he was the one at fault. Struggling to sound coherent, I forced out an apology. Then I looked up, and there it was, that face. My alcohol-sludged brain churned. Isn't that our CEO? The guy the entire internet simps over. I burst out laughing, jabbing a finger at him. Husband. The room spun. My legs gave out, strong arms caught me before I hit the floor. Blake's dark eyes locked onto mine, his expression unreadable. Mr. Blake. Sir. Someone else's voice snapped him out of it. Ah, haha. Is this someone you know? The awkward attempt at damage control went ignored. It's late, Mr. Clark, Blake said smoothly. Well, discuss your proposal another time. Oh, course. The man scurried off. Wiping sweat from his brow, I woke up at 11 a.m. the next morning, panic set in the second I saw the time. Shit, my attendance bonus. Fumbling for my phone. I froze. Wait, this bed. These sheets, this isn't my apartment. I yanked the covers back. Fresh pajamas. No smell of alcohol. Just the dull throb of a hangover. Who undressed me? Trying not to hyperventilate, I crept out of the bedroom. The place was minimalist. All neutral tones and high-end finishes. But oddly empty. The balcony view stopped me cold. Hampton Estates, the most exclusive complex in the city. Whose place is this? My clothes were nowhere in sight. Too nervous to snoop. I sat stiffly on the living room couch. A call to HR left me even more confused. Anna, your leave request was already processed this morning. Rest well. What leave request? Lily was just as baffled when I called her. I only heard about your absence when HR did. Sorry for last night, I didn't mean to drag you down with me. No, it's fine, I reassured her. I'm glad you got to unwind. After hanging up, I chewed my lip. Who the hell arranged my leave? And how did they know where I worked? At noon. The front door opened. Blake. The man hanging up his coat turned, backlit by the hallway light. His face was shadowed. Memories back. His voice was deep, smooth. Memory of what? Then it hit me. You brought me here. This is your place. Still reeling. I didn't notice him approaching until he was right in front of me. He seemed unimpressed by my confusion. What? You think I'd break into someone's home with a drunk stranger who wouldn't stop calling me husband? Husband. That's, my face burned. No way. But with zero recollection of the night. I had no defense. I backed up, straight into the couch. Blake grabbed my arm as I fell. But the momentum dragged him down. 2.my sleepwear rode up, bearing my thighs, for 2 seconds. His gaze lingered, then flicked away, oblivious. I was still stuck on his earlier words. Proof, I demanded, with a smirk. He pulled out his phone and hit play. Get up. His voice, cold. New. Hubby's here. Woo. My voice. Mortifyingly shrill. Hubby, I lunged for the phone. He held it out of reach. People pick up spare change. Never heard of anyone picking up a spare wife. Please stop. I whimpered. Hands over my face. A quiet laugh. Then, fine. But on one condition. Be my fiancé. I stared. Blake frowned at my silence. Did you not hear me? Fiancé. My brain short-circuited. Why? Today had officially broken me. You screamed husband all night. Seems fitting. He shrugged. I also need a fake fiancé. Cuts down on unnecessary attention. That's it. That's it. A beat. Well, do we have a deal? Can a wife and a fiancé even compare? Blake chuckled. So you're saying the title of fiancé isn't enough? That's not what I meant. I sputtered. I just mean, who agrees to something this huge so casually? Besides, shouldn't you find someone more suitable than me? The sheer amount of information overload was making it hard to think straight. Was Blake pulling this stunt to get back at me for taking advantage of him last night? Blake glanced at me. 2-year contract. $2 million a year. Deal. A job like this. I'd be a fool to refuse. Satisfied with my answer, Blake nodded. The housekeeper changed your clothes last night. They've been sent to the dry cleaner. Someone will bring you new ones this afternoon. I nodded obediently as he laid out the arrangements. The boss calls the shots, no objections here. Once Blake finished and left for the office, I floated upstairs to the bedroom in a daze. Then face-planted onto the bed, silently screaming into the sheets, what the hell is even happening? Then I bolted upright. Wait, is this Blake's actual bedroom? My eyes landed on the massive walk-in closet, and the lone black men's briefs dangling from the edge of the laundry basket. I am gonna lose my mind. True to Blake's word, someone delivered clothes that afternoon. I stared silently at the 10 or so luxe shopping bags piled in front of me. That's enough outfits for a whole month. Boss Bo is generous. Would you like me to put these in the closet for you? The impeccably dressed man in a suit smiled politely, snapping out of it. I realized I'd been ignoring him. Flustered. I looked up, and froze. I'd seen him before. At events Blake attended. The one everyone called Blake's right-hand man, Alex. Oh, no. That's okay. Even if Blake wanted me as his fiancée, I doubted he'd want me invading his personal space. Besides, sending clothes was such a trivial task, why bother someone this busy? Impressed by how down-to-earth he was despite his status, I warmed up to him instantly. I'll handle it myself. I gave him a grateful smile. Alex's smile deepened. Then, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. He stepped toward the door, pausing to add. Mr. Bo has a meeting this afternoon and will be back by 6. He asked that you wait for him at home. Alex's words killed any thought of going back to my place. I planned to change and head home to clear my head. Familiar surroundings would have helped me calm down. Great, now I get to stress until tonight. After pacing the living room aimlessly, I gave up on organizing the clothes and left them in a corner for Blake to deal with later. Might as well kill time with a game. No way was I rotting on the couch for hours waiting for him. So when Blake finally came home, he found a woman curled up on the sofa, aggressively tapping her phone screen. Blake. I'd been gaming all afternoon, and losing all afternoon, defeated. I dropped my phone and slumped sideways. Since when was there a person there? I nearly screamed once I recognized who it was. I awkwardly straightened up, sitting stiffly. Boss Bo. I swore I heard a quiet laugh, but when I looked up, his expression hadn't changed. You're back early, I offered weakly. Blake's lips twitched. Not really. It's 7. Me. Didn't realize he was the petty type. After Blake pulled out the contract, he casually remarked. If you're planning to negotiate in a nightgown, I don't mind. Only then did I realize I was still in sleepwear. I shot to my feet, face burning. I'll go change. Just gimme a sec. Without looking, I grabbed the nearest bag and bolted upstairs. When I unfolded the fabric inside, I wanted to strangle my past self for not checking first. What is this? The dress was practicalist in back, barely any fabric at all. First time experiencing the phrase shooting yourself in the foot. Walking downstairs, I fought the urge to tug at the hem, hands stiffly held behind me. I took each step carefully, the slits ran dangerously high up both thighs. Who the hell designed this? I seethed silently. Blake watched as the woman descended the stairs. Her pale, smooth skin was on full display, a faint flush of embarrassment tinting her body. Long, shapely legs peeked through the slits with every step. Shed pinned up her hair, exposing a slender neck. His gaze lingered before he lowered his eyes, expression unreadable. I finally reached Blake, my heart settling now that the risk of a wardrobe malfunction was over. Then he looked up from the contract and stutted me. I am gonna combust. Stop looking at me like that. Why did you say it like that? My face was hotter than a sauna. Blake seemed surprised by my outburst, chuckling. Fine. But I didn't expect you to dress so. He trailed off, like he couldn't find the right word. His eyes flicked down, then snapped back up. As if remembering my plea, finally, he met my gaze and deadpanned. So formal. Me. Just bury me now. Neither party shall engage in any disloyal behavior during the contract period. Party B, me, must accompany Party A, Blake, to events as needed, including but not limited to banquets, business functions. Party A will cover all living expenses for Party B. Party A shall not coerce Party B in any way. Any requests outside the contract require Party B's prior consent. This contract also serves as an employment agreement. Term: 2 years. Annual salary: $2 million. I choked. I asked Blake, trying to enable laziness. What kind of saintly terms are these? I shot him. Are you a walking red flag or just into me? Look, Blake read my face and met my eyes, his gaze deep. I know what you're thinking. The truth is, he paused, watching my growing shock, then said solemnly, someone else. She left abruptly 6 years ago. I still haven't found her. Me. Great. So I'm getting paid to be a stand-in, even less guilt now. If Party B breaches the contract, they must compensate Party A with liquidated damages. Fine. No issue there. I can last 2 years. However, damages need not be monetary. Party A may substitute a single demand. A demand. I looked up. What kind? Blake nudged my head back toward the contract. Just a contingency. If you don't break the terms, it's irrelevant. Fair point. Party B must cohabitate with Party A for the contract's duration. Blake noticed my hesitation. Unmarried couples can get away with separate rooms, separate floors. Though, I forced a laugh. Haha, yeah, that'd be weird. Then I reached the final clause. The above terms reflect Party A's requirements and protections for Party B. Party B may propose additional conditions within Party A's capacity. Final approval rests with Party A. Perfect timing. I can add my conditions. I asked eagerly. Blake eyed my bright expression and nodded. Yes, but I have the final say. Then, I drew out the word, smiling sweetly. Separate bedrooms wouldn't be a prob, no. Blake cut me off, smiling, ugh. Let's go. Blake stood after I signed. Where? Your place. To see what you need to move. Unless you'd rather go tomorrow morning. No way, I said instantly. I'm not waking up early on a weekend. Blake nodded. Then let's go, but first, his eyes dropped to my outfit. Change out of that. My face burned again. Whose fault is that? This is all on you. I shuffled over to the new clothes, torn between squatting down or not squat. No way, this high slit made it impossible not squat. Guess I had no choice, just as I bent my knees slightly, ready to use a dancer-worthy side lean to hook the bag. Blake suddenly stepped forward, one arm wrapped around my waist where I was arched. His firm forearm pressing against the small of my back. At the same time, he leaned down in front of me and picked up the bag. Go wait in the dressing room. Blake tilted his chin toward the stairs. They'll find you something more casual and bring it up. Okay. I obeyed meekly, even though I'd already spent a night at Blake's place. Bringing him back Tommy home still made me feel a little nervous, that is, until I saw the pitiful remains of my belongings after his ruthless editing on the bedroom floor. Blake. He turned to look at me, one eyebrow slightly raised. Waiting for me to continue. I put on my best pleading voice. I need this plushie. I can't sleep without it. Fine. He sounded like I'd backed him into a corner. Then he added, clothes and daily essentials will be replaced. No need to bring everything. As for your little toys, Blake's gaze swept over the scattered plushies around the room. Take them if you want. It was a simple statement, but I could hear faint disdain in his tone. Originally, I'd only planned to take my 2 favorites, but after that remark, I stuffed every single one into a packing box without hesitation. Blake. Moving turned out to be exactly as Blake had said, aside from the things I loved. I didn't need to bring anything, hell, I didn't even have to pack or transport anything myself. His assistants handled it all. Damn capitalism. I took a deep breath. It smelled amazing. Right before bed, I realized something, the dress incident. Not even the most awkward part of my day. I glared at the bedroom door like it had personally offended me and said to Blake, are you sure about this? I'm a terrible sleeper. Blake didn't budge. I can have someone install guardrails around your side. I was speechless. This man wasn't some business prodigy, he was a business tyrant. Completely immovable. Still, I refused to give up. President by Blake, brother by. His visible shock gave me hope, progress. I pressed my advantage. Brother by. You're so handsome, and your body is perfect. What if I lose control at night and take advantage of you? Blake's expression shifted from disgust, or maybe horror at my shamelessness, to something stranger. Take advantage of. His eyes darkened as he stared at me, his tone laced with something almost imperceptible, like disbelief. I didn't pick up on it. Blake had money, looks, and a killer body. By all accounts, He was the kind of guy people would fight over. If anything did happen between us, he'd be the one losing out, it'd be winning. Right. You don't want to just get groped for no reason, do you? So I should sleep in the goo. Before I could finish, the world tilted. The next thing I knew, I was flat on my back on the bed. Blake braced his arms on either side of my head, stared down at me for a long moment, then, from way too close, said, "There is no guest room." Then he pulled back, sat beside me, and yanked me upright. I was still trying to process what had just happened when Blake dragged me straight into his arms. Blake. Completely bewildered, I stammered. "What are you doing? Didn't you say you wanted to touch me?" Blake kept one arm locked around me while his other hand combed through my hair. His fingertips brushed against my scalp, sending shivers down my spine. "My fiancé asked so nicely," Blake murmured. How could I say no? For the first time in my life, I discovered something new about myself. I was dizzy from all this closeness, with my cheek pressed against Blake's firm chest. My head spun. I lifted my free hand to his shoulder, trying to push myself up, only for Blake to pull me right back down. "Me. What are you doing? I'm an employer who fully respects his contractual partner." Blake's voice was pure amusement. I had no comeback for that. His faint woody sense surrounded me, his warmth seeping into every breath. I'd never been this close to anyone before. And panic sent me burying my face deeper, like an ostrich, except I forgot my current position. Burying my face deeper just meant shoving it straight into Blake's chest. Helped. I felt the rumble of his silent laughter. This jerk was laughing at me again. He was bullying over a throwaway comment. This wasn't just coercion, it was reverse coercion. How was I supposed to keep running my mouth when he pulled stunts like this? The more I thought about it, the more frustrated I got. Why was I holding back when he was the one serving himself up on a silver platter? Screw it, I threw caution to the wind and let my hand slide down, giving him a deliberate, shameless grope, face burning. I snarled, "Don't think you can provoke me and get away with it. You'll regret it when I make a move." Then, because I wasn't done, I added, "Before, I held back because you're my boss, and we have a contract. And you pay me." My voice got smaller with each word. No. I had to stand my ground. Blake needed to know I meant what I said, otherwise, he'd keep using my big mouth against me forever. I only kept my distance out of respect. "But if you're going to, I floundered, struggling to define his behavior, then blurted, "Seduce him like this, pft." I'd never seen Blake laugh so inelegantly before, but his reaction only pissed me off more. Indignant, I snapped, "I'm being serious. Keep this up." And I wouldn't hold back anymore. Blake couldn't stop laughing at my antics. I'd never seen him so carefree before. Around others, he was always composed, cool, and meticulous, like a perfectly calibrated machine. Every move calculated. I stared, mesmerized. But this version of Blake felt familiar. Almost comforting. The usual polite distance between us melted away. And I muttered, "What's so funny?" He pulled me into a gentle sway, like I was something fragile, gentle and protective. It made me wonder, what kind of girl could have dumped Blake? Someone sweet, outgoing, elegant and icy. She must've been stunning, right? The kind you can't forget, even if you're Blake-level perfect. I suddenly shoved him away. Under his confused gaze, I said, "I'm going to bed." And tried to leave. Blake caught my wrist. "Stay here." He frowned. "Sleep here. I won't touch you. Hug your stuffed animal or whatever." When I hesitated, he added, "I'm not worried about you attacking. What's your excuse?" I rolled my eyes. Of course. Had weaponized my sarcasm, leaning against the headboard. He listed reasons like a lawyer. "We need to look convincing in public. If I put my arm around you or kiss your cheek someday, you can't freeze like a plank. That'll blow our cover. Shouldn't we ease into it?" He just stared, smug. Like he knew I'd cave. Fine. Sleeping wasn't a big deal. His bed was massive. I could hug the edge and still leave room for 2 linebackers. I flopped under the covers and snapped. "Turn off the light, mister. Bye." As the room darkened and his laughter faded, my defenses crumbled. Exhaustion hit hard, today's chaos. Last night's lingering alcohol. Darkness swallowed me whole. It'd been 2 weeks since I became Blake's fiancée. Work stayed normal. Same 9 to 5. Same department happy hours. Life seemed unchanged, seemed was the keyword, when I herded Blake into the elevator, again. To avoid being seen together, he finally snapped. "Am I your secret affair now?" I flashed my best suck-up smile. "Mister, bye. You're magnanimous. Just go first." "Okay." He shot me Athos isn't over glare before the doors closed. I ducked into the staff elevator, shuddering at the thought of using the CEO's private lift. The office gossip groups would have exploded. Just imagining it made me cringe. Anan, a senior colleague, Amy, joined me at the elevators. "Why are you loitering out here?" "Oh, you know." I deadpanned, contemplating 100 ways to flee the country. She laughed. "That's not the tackle challenge's hidden spirit marketing preaches. More like Tacklemanhattan." I grumbled as we walked in. Later, Blake texted me to his office. I sneaked upstairs, knocked, and barged in. Blake, what's Alex, his assistant, stood there. "Oh, hi, Alex." I froze. "Miss Chen." He smiled. "Just call me Lee." After briefing Blake, he left. "Alex clocks out." I blurted. Blake didn't look up from his documents. "You're off duty, too." I figured he'd be on 247 standby. By that logic, the whole company should work unpaid overtime. Besides, he smirked, "His overtime rate's triple yours." I resisted strangling him. "Thanks for the bow raise, boss. Lee does rush back for emergencies." Blake gestured. "Come here." I thought he'd show me something. Instead, he grabbed my hand. "Dinner, now." 2 months in, something felt off. Blake still annoyed me sometimes, but as a client, best ever. He agreed to every term, even hiding our engagement at work. Head sulked for 2 days, until I woke up in his arms on day 3. At first, I blamed my sleepwalking. Tried pillows as barriers. Useless. The man had a gravitational pull. Now I've embraced it. Human pillows are warm. We attended industry dinners. I braced for interrogation, but Blake deflected every nosy question about my background. I even made friends, though I hesitated when invites came. "Why ask me?" Blake raised an eyebrow when I sought his opinion. "I'm using your fiancé title to network." "Then, as your fiancé, I say do what you want." That version of Blake threw me off balance. Other versions made me want to throttle him. Last week, my killer marketing plan got me promoted to executive assistant, working under Alex. Turns out, absorbing Blake's business IQ for months paid off. But nepotism, really? Colleagues shot me awestruck looks as I hauled my stuff upstairs. Lily from HR mouthed, "You go, girl." I wanted to vanish. 6 months into this charade, I stormed home and shook Blake by the shoulders. "I got 3rd-degree burns from all those stairs today. Warn me next time." He laughed, steadying me. "I did." When I said good work deserves rewards. He lifted me onto the entryway shoe bench. I thought rewards meant bonuses. "Not this. I'd take this reward." He swapped my shoes, grinning. "But since no one offers, I claimed it myself." That night, I stacked every pillow I owned on his side of the bed. Blake raised an eyebrow. "Enjoy the altitude." I snipped. "Great view, right?" He yanked me onto the pillow mountain. I wobbled, clinging to him. "Blake, ill fall. You're a human octopus." His laugh rumbled against me. "You'd survive a collapsed bed." I looked up to argue, and realized our position. Chest to chest. Legs tangled. Let go. I'm a mermaid now. I pushed him. He tightened his hold. Sure. Little siren. Then brushed a kiss against my lips. It hit me then. Over 6 months, Blake's quiet patience had unearthed a version of me I didn't recognize. Someone who teased him fearlessly, complained freely, even whimpered. Blake. It hurts during period cramps at 2 a.m. When had I started loving him this much? You okay? He cupped my face, worried. I won't do that again if you hate it. I couldn't speak. Joy and fear warred in my chest. All I could do was bury my face in his shoulder, holding on tight. Don't go. I heard myself whisper it again. Soft and pleading. Don't go. The next day, Blake had already left for work. I curled into the blankets, twisting like a worm in bed. Who was that ridiculously sentimental woman last night? Who? It couldn't have been me. Snap out of it, you're just a contract worker. Then, because I moved too abruptly, I tweaked my back. Ow, my face burning. I avoided looking at the scattered marks on my skin. Slowly steadying my breathing, Blake had a first love, the one who held his heart. The only reason I got any special treatment was because of this 2-year fiancé arrangement. It was never meant to last. I knew that. What if that incredible girl ever came back into his life? Or if they crossed paths again? Everything I had now would vanish like Ariel at sunrise. Poof. Gone. The more I thought about it, the more defeated I felt. I buried my face in the blankets, only to jerk my head back up moments later, gasping for air. Whatever. What's the point of overthinking it now? The contract's end date was creeping closer. Lately, I'd become like some self-deluding ostrich, dodging thoughts of the future while still clinging to Blake's kindness. I was starting to hate myself for it. What's wrong? You've been spacing out a lot lately. Blake had noticed my distraction. He pulled me close, his large hands enveloping mine, his long fingers toying with my knuckles. What's on your mind? All that overthinking made the words spill out before I could stop them. Leaving. Blake assumed I was just tired of work and needed a break. Over the past year, had spoiled me rotten. If I hadn't insisted on keeping my job, I'd probably be some pampered canary in a gilded cage by now. Want to go on a trip somewhere? Blake asked with a smile. No. I didn't know how to explain, but now that I'd started, the emotions I'd been bottling up came flooding out. I want to leave. I missed the way Blake's expression cooled, as if to seal my fate. I repeated, the contract's almost up. Blake, I want to leave. Anna. His voice was icy as he said my name. I'll pretend I didn't hear that. His tone made me want to see RY. In the end, I'd fallen in, fully aware, yet drowning in feelings that were never meant to be mine. I'm just a fake fiancé, I murmured, finally choking back a sob. The one you love will come back eventually. Wouldn't it be better if I stepped aside early? It's only a month anyway. Before I could finish, Blake kissed me, deep and suffocating. I struggled, whimpered, and then gave in. Calmer now. Blake cupped my face, his forehead resting against mine. I pressed my lips together. I've always been calm. I've just been thinking about how to tell you I'm leave. Blake was a straight-up rogue. He had no intention of letting me finish another kiss. And before I could speak, he said, Anna, there's still a month left on the contract. I know. You don't have to remind me. I must have looked awful, trying to leave before it's up. He kissed the corner of my eye. Anan, you'll have to pay me liquidated damages. Furious, I shoved him away, glaring as tears finally spilled over. Fine, I'll pay. I don't care. I'm leaving. Blake sighed. Did you forget? Liquidated damages can also be exchanged for one favor. I didn't even care what he was getting at. I just stared at him defiantly. He seemed to struggle with his words before finally sitting on the office couch and burying his face against my stomach. You want to break the contract and leave, but I want to use it to keep you by my side. His muffled voice carried a hint of grievance. What do we do, Anan? How about I just change the terms? Stay with me forever. Okay. What about your first love? What if she comes back? My heart ached. At first, I thought Blake's kindness was just him projecting his feelings onto me, or redirecting them. But over time, I started to wonder. Maybe, just maybe, he liked me a little, but that possibility was too good to be true. So good that it scared me when Blake didn't answer. I laughed bitterly at the part of me that had dared to hope. See, he can't even answer that. Just as I resigned myself, I heard him mutter, "You're hopeless." That conversation in the office ended with me shocked, then devolving into full-blown tears, while Blake panicked and tried to console me. After that, neither of us brought up the contract again, as if it had never existed. Tonight, Blake had a business dinner. I stayed home, fussing with some plants. The once empty house had gone from minimalist to maximalist since I moved in. Blake didn't get back until almost 11. I caught the scent of alcohol as I helped him to the bedroom. "I didn't drink much," Blake said, kissing me, "but thanks, Anan." Then, he headed for the shower. I watched as he shed clothes along the way, leaving a trail. Rolling my eyes, I picked them up to toss in the hamper, until something fell from his pocket. "What's this?" I stared at the familiar little pendant. A dark green jade pendant, originally attached to a bracelet, a braided brown leather cord with intricate silver clasps. The pendant dangling from one end. My hands shook. This was the pendant ID lost years ago. Why did Blake have it? I sat on the bed, watching as Blake returned from the shower. Blake. His gaze landed on the pendant in my hand, and he smiled. "Anan," he murmured, voice low with amusement. "Why are you holding my first love's keepsake?" "First love keepsake? What are you talking about?" I clutched the pendant. "This was my graduation gift from Grandma in high school." "How is it your—" My words died halfway. Blake helpfully finished for me, fingers circling my wrist, thumb brushing over my pulse. "Yeah, my first love's pendant. So why's it yours?" My mind spun. I could only stare up at him, silently demanding an answer. Blake didn't give one. Instead, he closed the distance, stealing my breath all over again. That night, Blake was relentless. I couldn't take it, pushing against his chest. My voice trembled. "No more, Blake. I can't." He ignored me, gripping my ankle tighter, thrusting deeper. I gasped. Then, half annoyed, half defiant, wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him. Blake slowed, his hands gentling on my waist like I was something precious. When we broke apart, I whispered against his lips, "You knew me before." A statement, not a question. Blake didn't deny it. "When did we meet? You want to know?" I nodded. "You can't remember. Even after seeing the pendant, you still don't get why I have it." There was a faint edge of complaint in his voice. I kissed his chin. "I just want to know how past me could have been so dumb, how I missed someone like you." Blake's hips snapped forward at that. I yelped as he let me claw at his back, driving into me like a man possessed. "Remember when I told you about the girl I liked 6 years ago? The one who vanished without a trace?" I nodded, fighting an eye roll. "I was in California then. My company was just a tiny startup, for a project. Some buddies and I visited Pitzer College." My head jerked up. "I did my sophomore year exchange there." Blake laughed, arms tightening around me. "Yeah, Anan. That day happened to be the campus debate tournament. I watched you shut down that guy from our hometown at the debate competition. He was so pissed when he came off stage, grabbed me and started yelling, almost threw a punch." I mumbled, staring at my hands. I dodged quick. Someone caught me. Then when that jerk lunged again, the person next to me, "You're the one who punched him." My jaw dropped. "Couldn't you say I was the guy who caught you?" Blake sighed. "No, because you vanished after clocking him. The exchange program director spent weeks trying to ID the mystery assailant." I shook my head, the memory still surreal, turning to Blake. "All this because of that. All this because of that." Blake echoed with a weird laugh. You were fire. Anna. I barely steadied you before you tried charging back into the fight. You wriggled out of my grip, yelling, "Pretty boys stay back. Let me show this punk how." Shut up. I lunged to cover his mouth. My face burning, Blake's tongue flicked my palm. I yelped and jerked back. You can dish it out but can't take it. His smirk widened. Weren't you bold during orientation? Anti-overwork. Boss'll go bald from overtime. This dump's gonna bankrupt. I dove under the comforter with a muffled scream. How do you even know that? Anna. The mattress dipped as Blake wrapped his arms around my blanket burrito. His breath warmed my ear. In California, I admired your guts. Then you walked into the office, same fiery girl from the auditorium. Watched you rant to coworkers. Wondering when you'd recognize me. Now, best decision I ever made was that ridiculous contract. Let me know you, want you, love you. His fingers found mine under the fabric. I'm yours, Anna. Change the contract date. I exploded from the blankets. Pinning him, Blake caught my wrists, same steady grip from years ago. Done. Extra one. I shoved Blake's chest, gasping. We're late. He thumbed my swollen lips. Well, make it. Stumbling from his BMW, I yanked his sleeve. Boss, you can't drain your employees like this. I'm in my prime. Not some. Blake snorted. Flicking my forehead. English. Anna. I'm serious. Day shifts. Night shifts. 7-Eleven workers get better hours. Night shifts. His eyebrow arched. Sweetheart. Even capitalists have standards. When I glared, he continued lazily. Who handles the aftermath? My throat clicked. Who gets bitten when they're uncomfortable? Kids say the darndest things. Right. I slapped a hand over his mouth. Blake nipped my palm. Our kid's heartless. Babe, the heartless kid, wants coffee. I texted from my marketing desk. Post-dating CEO had perks. But I refused to be a trophy girlfriend. Colleagues kept giving me pity snacks. They thought I'd been demoted after briefly assisting Blake. Explaining would require announcing. I'm banging the boss, hard pass. Ms. Chong. I choked on my water. Mr. Lee. The CEO ordered coffee. There was surplus. The intern gestured to 2 crates of Blue Bottle. The department froze. Afternoon tea break. Alex announced cheerfully. My soul left my body. Extra 2. Blakey. I hissed in the parking lot. That was social suicide. He chuckled. You wanted coffee. I wanted a latte. Not to supply Starbucks. Noted. His fingers danced up my spine. No overtime this month. Not. Second, MPH. Later. Blake nuzzled my neck as horror movie screams filled the penthouse. His palm inched under my shirt. Scared. I taunted, teeth grazed my collarbone. Terrified. When his fingers found the lace, I killed the TV and straddled him. Knew you'd crack first. His victorious grin glowed in the dark. Extra story 3. Anin. Blake looked at me, who was buried in the sofa, with an amused expression, playing the ostrich. I let out a whimper. Do you understand this feeling? You don't. All you do is laugh at me after I call someone by the wrong name. Here's what happened. In the morning, I went back home with Blake to the By family's house. As soon as we opened the door, we saw a very beautiful woman. I held back the word beauty that was about to come out of my mouth and spent a second thinking about what to call her. I blurted out. Hello, sister. I swear I heard Blake laughing behind me. The beautiful woman was taken aback for a moment before she smiled gently and took my arm. Anin. I didn't realize I had called her the wrong name yet. I nodded and thought to myself that it felt really good to be held by a beautiful woman. I've always told Blake to bring you back so we could meet you. The beautiful woman smiled even more happily. He's talked about you to me and his father for a long time. But he wouldn't let us see you. He built up our anticipation. At first, I just went along with what she said. But the more I listened, the more something seemed off. What did she mean by me and his father? His father. I shakily grabbed the beautiful woman's hand and tentatively called her in a low voice. Aunt. This time, I had a lot less confidence. The beautiful woman finally couldn't hold back her smile and laughed. Anin is so cute. Blake, did you know I'd be reluctant to let her go once I met her? So you deliberately waited so long. I didn't say anything. Blake hung up our coats on the hanger and walked towards the inside of the house, asking, "Where's Dad?" "He's in the study, fiddling with the little thing you brought for him." "Mrs." I rolled her eyes slightly. "Go and call him out for dinner. Anin is already here." "Mrs." I kept us there until we had dinner before we left. As soon as I got home, I buried myself in the sofa. "Is it that bad?" Blake came over and sat down, pulling me up and hugging me in his arms. "It's not that. After a kiss ended, I tearfully accused him. "Couldn't you have turned me around first? My neck hurts from being twisted." Blake smiled and nipped at my cheek. "My fault. I'm sorry." "How are you going to apologize?" I squeezed Blake's finger bones one by one and asked him back. "How do you want me to apologize?" Anin. Blake suddenly tightened his arm around my waist, lowered his head, leaned in and nipped at my ear, then sucked on my earlobe and whispered to me, "Like this." I trembled at his actions, and my fingers gripping Blake's forearm tightened as he spoke. "If you don't say anything, I'll take it as a yes." Blake's hot breath blew against my back, and his hands started to roam. Shower. With great difficulty, I pulled myself together and pressed down on Blake's misbehaving hands. Blake's chest vibrated, making my back feel hot. He picked me up and walked towards the second floor. "Yes, ma'am." Extra Story 4. Anin. Time to get up. Blake opened the curtains and then walked barefoot back to the bed. He bent down and kissed the side of my forehead. I was so annoyed by him that I reached out and pushed him haphazardly. And then there was a loud slap. It was so clear and loud I opened my eyes sleepily. Blake, who was kneeling on one knee by the bedside, had just been firmly slapped on the butt by me. I looked at the beautiful sight in front of me and couldn't help but reach out and rub it. Blake. Me. Looking at the increasingly intense look in the person's eyes in front of me, I woke up immediately. "I'm hungry." Too late. Blake grabbed me as I was trying to make a last-ditch struggle and pushed me back onto the bed. An excellent employee like me always says yes to whatever the boss wants. I put my hands against his firm shoulders after his pajamas slipped down and complained angrily, "Aren't you ashamed?" It was already afternoon when we went out. Blake led me into a store. At first, when I asked Blake where we were going, he was all mysterious and wouldn't tell me. It wasn't until we walked into the store I looked at the white wedding dress in front of me and couldn't help but laugh. "Does it look good?" I heard Blake's gentle voice, with a hint of barely noticeable anticipation. "It looks good." I nodded and asked with a smile, "When did you prepare this?" "I started having it custom-made half a year ago." I couldn't help but tease him. "You've been keeping it well hidden, Mr. Bye." Blake smiled and hugged me. "Then would you give me a chance?" "What chance?" "A chance for me to upgrade from your fiancé to your husband." "Aren't you supposed to say this after I come out of changing my clothes?" Hearing this, Blake led me to the spacious fitting room of the dress and handed me the clothes draped over his arm. "I can say it countless times, as long as you're willing to listen." I pulled Blake's tie and rubbed my lips against his but didn't deepen the kiss. The ambiguous atmosphere gradually filled the air. "Well, it depends on your performance then, Mr. Bye." After saying that, before he could react, I tilted my head and kissed his cheek, then turned around and closed the door. Blake's reply came with a low laugh from outside the door. "You're so sly."